Ryan Cole had seen plenty of strange things in his 15 years as a salvage operator, but nothing quite like the crystalline eggs nestled in the wreckage of the Kelvorian freighter. They pulsed with an inner light, warm to the touch despite the vacuum of space surrounding the derelict ship. Most salvagers would have left them alone. Anything that glowed in a wreck usually meant trouble, but Ryan had always been the curious type, and something about the desperate way those eggs flickered made him think of a heartbeat struggling to continue. He carefully loaded all 7 of them into his cargo bay, wrapping them in thermal blankets and setting up heat lamps. Whatever they were, they deserved a chance. He had no idea he'd just adopted the children of the most feared entity in the known galaxy. The eggs hatched 3 days later. What emerged were small reptilian creatures with scales that shifted colors like oil on water, and eyes far too intelligent for newborns. They chirped and mewled, immediately imprinting on Ryan as their caretaker. He fed them nutrient paste at first, then raw metals when he noticed them gnawing on his tools. They grew quickly, alarmingly so, doubling in size each week. Ryan named them despite knowing he'd probably have to give them up eventually. There was Ember, the bold one with crimson scales. Frost pale as starlight and twice as clever. Storm had gray mottled patterns and a temperament to match. The others, Ash, Flare, Spark, and Little Glimmer, each had their own personalities that bloomed as they grew. Research told him nothing. The galactic databases had no record of any species matching their description. Ryan contacted xenobiologists, sent samples, posted on every scientific forum he could find. The responses ranged from confused to alarmed, but no one could identify what he'd found. One Kelvorian researcher told him to destroy them immediately before cutting communication. That should have been his first warning. By month 3, the hatchlings were the size of shuttlecraft, and Ryan had converted an entire storage hangar on station Kepler 7 to house them. They'd learned to communicate through a combination of electromagnetic pulses and what Ryan swore was actual telepathy. They were gentle with him, playful even, but he'd seen Ember accidentally melt a steel bulkhead when startled. Whatever these creatures were, they were powerful. The station administrator had been patient, but when Frost accidentally caused a gravity fluctuation that affected 3 decks, Ryan knew his time was running out. He needed to find these beings a proper home, somewhere they could grow freely. He started searching for uninhabited planets in unclaimed sectors, somewhere safe. That's when Valeth arrived. The sensors detected her before anyone could see her, a massive gravitational distortion moving through space at impossible speeds. She emerged from a tear in reality itself, a creature so immense that her shadow fell across the entire station. Her scales were like galaxies swirling with stars and cosmic dust. Her eyes burned with the fury of collapsing suns. Panic erupted across Kepler 7. Everyone knew what she was, even if they'd never seen her. Valeth the Destroyer, Valeth the Eternal, the Great Devourer. She'd laid waste to entire fleets, reduced planets to asteroid fields, and made empires tremble. Legends said she was older than most civilizations, a force of nature that couldn't be reasoned with or stopped. The station began emergency evacuation procedures. Ryan stood in the hangar with the 7 hatchlings who'd grown agitated, calling out in frequencies that made his bones vibrate. They sensed something, someone. Valeth's consciousness touched his mind like a wave of ancient starlight. It didn't speak in words but in pure understanding. Images and emotions flowing directly into his thoughts. He saw her story. The attack on her nest by Kelvorian poachers seeking to harvest her eggs for weapons research. Her rage as she pursued them across 3 systems. Her despair when she found the wrecked freighter. The nest destroyed, her children gone. She'd searched for months, following the faintest traces of their psychic signatures across the void. Never stopping, never resting, and now impossibly she'd found them. Alive. Thriving. Ryan felt her presence examining him, measuring him, understanding what he'd done. He'd fed them, protected them, kept them safe when he could have sold them, weaponized them, or simply abandoned them. He'd shown them kindness with no expectation of reward, never knowing he was nurturing the offspring of the galaxy's most dangerous being. The hatchlings rushed forward, and Valeth's massive head lowered to meet them. They swarmed over her, chirping and flashing with joy, and for a moment, the destroyer of worlds was simply a mother reunited with her children. When her gaze returned to Ryan, he felt something shift in the universe around him. A bond formed, ancient and unbreakable. She marked him with something beyond words, a promise, a debt, a connection that would transcend time and space. Then, as suddenly as she'd arrived, Valeth began to fade, taking her children with her. But before she disappeared entirely, Ryan received one final transmission in his mind, a set of cosmic coordinates and a single profound message. You gave me back the future. If you ever need me, I will come. The universe itself could not stop me. Ryan stood alone in the empty hangar, watching the space where they'd vanished. The station's alarms were still blaring, but through the viewport, he could see Valeth's massive form retreating into the stars, 7 smaller shapes dancing around her like planets orbiting a sun. He smiled, touching the mark on his chest where he could feel her promise burning like a brand. Somewhere out there, the galaxy's most feared creature owed him a debt. He hoped he'd never need to collect it, but it was comforting to know that if he ever did, nothing in existence would stand in her way.